July 17, 1936 marked the beginning of almost 3 years of fighting and subsequent establishment of a dictatorship. It was a conflict that lasted until 1939 and faced two sides: the national side, led by General Francisco Franco, and the Republican side, which defended the democratic government that the national military wanted to overthrow. This conflict originated as an attempted military coup against the Spanish government, which was aimed at establishing a dictatorship. However, it failed and led to the Civil War. The war ended in April 1st of 1937, when Franco declared the victory of the national side and established a dictatorship, the Franco regime. The military wanted to rebel against the government that then the government of the Second Spanish Republic, and the democratic regime that existed in the country from 1931, until they ended with the Civil War in 1939. The ideological divide of the country led to several protests and revolts led by both left and right activists. Many soldiers did not agree with the government at the time, so they decided to take the power. The main soldiers who carried out this coup were three generals: Emilio Mola as the intellectual leader of the group, José Sanjurjo, and Francisco Franco, all of them from the national side. This war not only faced two sides, but also different ways of seeing the war. It was a class struggle, a religious war, a confrontation between opposing nationalisms, as well as the struggle between a dictatorship and a democracy, and between the fascism and the communism. The Spanish Civil War left the country with more than 600,000 dead, around 200,000 people exiled to other countries. And it was the bloodiest conflict in the history of Spain that left devastating consequences throughout the country.
The Spanish Civil War, 1936 to 1939, was the bloodiest conflict in Western Europe had experienced since the end of the World War in 1918. The war sparked massive atrocities. Approximately 200,000 people died as a result of systematic killings, mob violence, torture, and other brutalities. The war displaced millions of Spaniards. In 1939, approximately 500,000 refugees fled to France, where many of them would be confined in prison camps. 50,000 Spanish Republicans ended up in Nazi concentration camps after 1940. The beginning of the conflict. The Spanish Civil War began on July 17, 1936, when Generals Emilio Mola and Francisco Franco began an uprising to overthrow the democratically elected republic. Franco's Confederates assumed political power and instituted martial law, outside help and non-intervention. The Republic and the Nationalist request for military aid. Faced with the possible defeat, Franco asked Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy for help. Thanks to their military support during the 3 years that the conflict lasted, Hitler and Mussolini provided crucial military support to the Spanish Nationalist Army.
Approximately 5,000 German Air Force personnel served in the Condor Legion, which provided air support for coordinated ground attacks against Republican positions and carried out aerial bombardments of Republican cities. The most infamous of these attacks was on April 26, 1937, when Germany and Italy planes razed the basque city of Guernica in a 3-hour attack that killed more than 200 civilians. Fascist Italy supplied 75,000 troops in addition to its pilots and planes. Spain became a military laboratory to test the newest weaponry in battle conditions. For many liberals and leftists around the world, the Spanish Civil War represented a dress rehearsal for World War II, an unresolved conflict between the forces of democracy and fascism. Between 35,000 and 40,000 volunteers from more than 50 countries rushed to join the international brigades to defend the Republic. A smaller number of foreign recruits joined Franco forces.
Nationalists include the ultra-reactionary monarchists and the fascists try to eradicate all the Bolshevik atheists. We see that it's a breeding ground of massive atrocities carried out by belligerents, eager to eradicate their ideological opponents. So The statistics about the Civil War was that approximately 500,000 people lost their lives in this conflict. Approximately 2,100 died as a result of systematic killings, mob violence, torture, and other brutalities. Anarchists and other radicals frequently betting they are against the Catholic clergy, where almost 7,000 priests, friars, and nuns were killed during the first month of the revolt. The nationalists waged a brutal war against the supporters of the Republic. The women that support the Republic were publicly raped and actually being humiliated by shaving their heads. By the 1940s, more of the 500,000 people were routed and sent to almost 60 concentration camps. Large number of prisoners were recruited to do forced labor or to fight in Franco's army, or were tried by military courts. During the war, 100,000 people were executed by the nationalists. After the war ended in the spring of the 1939, another 5,000 were killed. The martial law continued in force on Franco Spain until the 1948, and ex-republicans were subjected to various forms of discrimination and punishment.
War and persecution result in several million displaced Spaniards. Many fled the areas of violence to seek refuge elsewhere. Only some countries such as Mexico and the Dominican Republic opened their doors to Spanish refugees. When the Civil War ended in 1939 with Franco's victory, approximately 500,000 Spanish Republicans escaped to France, where many were placed in prison camps in the south, such as Gurs, San Cyprian, and Les Milles. After the German defeat of France in the spring of 1940, the Nazi authorities recruited Spanish Republicans for forced labor and deported more than 30,000 to Germany, where about half of them ended up in concentration camps. About 7,000 of them were imprisoned at Mauthausen. More than half of them died in the field.